YouTube, we do it all straight from the garage. Got a 2008, I believe, Nissan Titan, and we're doing a starter. Funny thing about this thing, most starters you go under the car, it's connected to the bell housing, or it goes into the bell housing. But this one, they decided to put it under the intake. So we're gonna have to pull the intake to get to the starter. I think Cadillac on the North Star does this too, but hopefully this one's not that difficult. Just looking at it right now, because I haven't got into it, looks like I need to take this air box out. Of course, this cover got to come off, and the cover looks like it got 2 10s in the cover. Air box, oh yeah, we got a bolt back here and some other stuff, so get this wire, get that wire out for the mass sensor. It looks like we got a hose on the end of his, but once I pull this air cover off, then we'll figure out where we need to go from there. So let's get into it. All right, y'all, so I got most of the box off. It was of course, clamp here, took those off. And I took that bolt out I told you about, but there's also one inside the box. So once we take that one out inside the box, hopefully we can raise it. Actually, I'm gonna leave it because I don't need to take it out. I just needed to get access to this area. So we're not even gonna fool with the bottom half of that. All right, so we're looking at it now. Let me turn. All right, so I had to turn that TV down. Don't want no copyright violations or nothing like that. So looking at the intake, got a fuel line we got to release. So I got to release the fuel pressure. And I'll figure out how to do that in a second. And then looks like we got about 10 bolts on the side here. After we remove some stuff, this assembly is gonna have to come off. So first, we're gonna start with this throttle body. I'm gonna release this hose right here on the throttle body. It's got 2 hoses, so I'm gonna release them. And probably gonna leak some fluid. So what I think I'm gonna do is use a pin and cut the pin in half, and use the tube to go between the 2 hoses so the fluid stays in. So let's get that. All right, so I pull those hoses. I just plugged them with bolts, so they wouldn't leak. Little bit of fluid came out the throttle body, but nothing crazy. I don't think I have to remove the throttle body, so I won't. Let's get this wire out of here. All right. Gotta remove this hose here, this breather tube from the valve cover. And let's see what else we got. This hose here has to come out. All right. And then of course we got one on this side, a breather tube from the valve cover. So I'm gonna remove those 3 hoses and I will be back. All right, so this truck is not running, so therefore I can't start it because the starter's locked up. And I know there's a method where you can take the fuse from the fuel pump out and then try to start it and release all the fuel in the lines. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna release this valve right here, and whatever fuel is in there should release itself. So that valve's gonna have to come off regardless. It looks like, actually no it doesn't. But anyway, I'm gonna release it anyway. There's an O-ring in there, so if it's bad, you might want to get another O-ring to replace it. But it looks like my only course of action right now because, like I said, there's no, this truck won't start. So being that it won't start, I won't be able to release the pressure out the fuel line. Well, I gotta be a little creative with this one. Now, a lot of cars will have a valve on the fuel line that you can press like a Schrader valve in your tire. This one does not have one from what I can see. So I know I'm probably gonna have to release these injectors. So I'll do that, and then we'll come back. So I guess this car's been sitting for a while. So I actually did release this. As you can see, it's moving a little bit. There's no fuel pressure in there, so I'm clear. I'm cleared hot. Now I gotta release the fuel line right here. It's a funny looking little contraption. I guess I push forward on this and it'll come out. So let me get that a try and I'll let y'all know how I did it. Okay, so that was just a cover. and I took it off, and it's a normal little fitting. So I got two different types of fuel line removers. I got these little caps right here, which you will put over the fuel line, pull the fuel line in, push this the opposite direction, then you should take the fuel line off. So I could use that. I like this one. It's metal, and it gets in there a lot easier. So the concept here, I'm not going to be able to show you on camera, but I can show you the concept. The concept here is to get this over the fuel line and into this orifice right here. That's not the right one. Let's see. Let's try that one. Okay. It's too small. Anyway, the picture is you get this in here. Once you find the right one, you push this in while pushing the fuel line towards it, and it should release the spring that's in there holding the fuel line. So let me get this going and I'll come back. All right, y'all, so I ended up having to use one of these little fuel line removers. Basically, I stuck it in there, like I said, pushed the fuel line towards me, and it popped off. I'll show you inside this fuel line. If you look, it's got 4 pins in there. So the goal is to move those 4 pins back that are clipped to this, so the fuel line will come off. And there was barely any fuel that came out. So like I said, it's been sitting for a while, so fuel pressure is probably 0. All right, so it looks like this assembly right here, there's a bunch of hoses and stuff connected to it, but as I look, I see that there's a, let me get down in here. I got my little headlight on today. Hopefully the sunlight and everything. Sorry about that, but let's see here. There's a 10 right here, and there's a 10 back here. So I think if I remove those 2 10s, I can move this whole assembly out the way. I already took the hose off of the intake, so we'll check that out and I'll be back. All right, so I removed those 2 10s, and like I thought, this whole assembly just kind of moved out the way. It's like the 10 was here and here, so I removed those, and now that gives me clear access to okay, I'll release this too, get that hose out the way, but that gives me clear access to these injectors, which looks like they just have a normal pull tab on them. So you pop the bottom in and pull them out. I'm not going to do that with one hand because I don't want to break nothing. So I'm going to go off camera. I'm going to remove this clip here, and then I'll pull these fuel injectors, the lines of the fuel injectors out. Right back. Well, guys, remove those, gave me clear access. I didn't take the wires off yet, but I just kind of wanted to come back. On the opposite side, there is a 10mm bolt right here that, what is this? Connects the transmission dipstick to the intake. So make sure you remove that 10mm bolt. And from there, these were already out, so that's one less thing I got to do. And then you can see the bolts for the intake. It's not these ones on top. Those are for the injectors. But if you look down here, you got one there, and they're all the way down on the intake itself. So don't remove these, please. Just go down, and it looks like there's 5 on each side. So we're gonna go ahead and remove those. And we're gonna remove the injector wires because those wires are not connected to the intake. And we should see some success. So I'll start removing those and I'll be back. All right, family. So I got those bolts out I told you about. 5 on this side, 5 on the other. This is what they look like. The 2 hardest ones were these 2 in the back, and then on this side, the 1 in the back. I couldn't use my my ratchet on those. I had to go get a 1/4-inch drive. Had to go get a 1/4-inch drive ratchet, a 10mm socket, and my small ratchet. So what I want to do now is, because I feel like when I take this intake off, which it is moving, but I feel like when I take it off, you're gonna have direct access to the intake port. So I want to blow everything out, make sure there's no gunk. Because I saw a lot of junk down here, and I'll show you. See all that stuff down there? Yeah. I don't want that falling into the intake. All that's blown out now. Should be able to remove the intake. So here we go. Another word of caution. I normally like to put stuff up here, like bolts and stuff, but because of where this intake sits, something might fall down, so I'm gonna remove all this stuff. I don't want nothing up top. Just taking precaution. A lot of cars, the intake is above this cowl, so you ain't gotta worry about it, but with this one, like I said, the intake goes all the way under. And I don't want no issues, nothing falling into those valves. So, doing this with one hand. I got one hose from the brake booster on the back that I got to pull off. And there's your starter. So let me pull this hose off and I'll come back. All right, y'all, so there's a starter. This would be a good time for you guys to replace these intake gaskets. They're all individual, so there's 8 of them in the bottom of the intake. And as you can see, like right here, you see that oil? So that one was starting to leak. This one was starting to leak. So it was starting to leak. So it's about time for those to be changed anyway. The starter looks like it only has 2 bolts holding it in. And then of course, you got this one here, but let me see. That's actually connected to this module up here. So we might be able to take that out after I release these 2 bolts. They feel like they're 14s and they come in from the opposite side of the starter. So what I want to do is wipe all this off first. Then I'm gonna cover it with some rags. And then once I do that, I'll come back and I'll get that starter out. But you don't want anything falling in these ports. That's a big no-no. So I'm gonna cover them up, wipe them down, cover them up, and then I'll be back. That's what it looks like. Oh, I'll show you the intake real quick. Gaskets I was talking about. So you got your gaskets here, and they're all individual gaskets. So there's 8 of them. So just be aware of that when you're doing this job. All right, I'll be back. All right, y'all. So I got everything covered up, and now I'm just removing these bolts. They are 14s, and they are on there pretty good. So it's kind of sucks because of your angle that you have. So if you can get a nice size ratchet back there, you should be all right. It looks like they loosened up pretty good. So what I'm probably gonna try to do is take my my other ratchet, my Ryobi ratchet, and stick it back there and see if I can whip them out. And once I get the starter out, I'll come back. 2 bolts, 14s. All right, y'all, so I got the starter out down here. And there is a wire that's connected to it. It connects right back here. So you push that out and you can just disconnect the wire. It's a regular push-pull type deal. And then if you flip the starter over, by the way, the battery cable is unplugged. You got a bolt, looks like a 12 or a 13 that comes out, and that should release this starter wire right here. I believe this one will stay attached, but we will find that out here in a second. So anyway, I hope I've made someone's journey a little easier. That's removing a starter from a 2007 Nissan Titan. And as you can see, there's quite a few steps to go through, but it's really not a bad job. Overall, this took me about an hour to take it out. So I anticipated taking me an hour to put the new one back in. Only bad part is the customer brought the wrong starter, so I gotta wait till they go back and replace the starter and get all that stuff. So in the meantime, I clean up as much as I can, and then when the new starter comes, I'll get it stabbed in. If y'all got any questions, put them in the comments. Please like and subscribe and tell your friends about us, man. I'm trying to get my subscribers up, so I keep trying to put content out as much as possible. It's We Do It All, straight from the garage. I appreciate y'all, and see you to the next one. Peace. Well, fam, got everything back together. She's running. Wasn't running when it came to me, but you know, we did our thing. Thanks to the spam and everything. Got a little antifreeze that dripped out of that hose, but nothing crazy. Nice and smooth. Starter sounds good. I'll take it to starter. Oh, let me see here. Code. Here's the start. For my code reader, we got 0 codes, so nothing on the dash. So yeah, just take your time, man, and everything will line up and work out. Like I said, the smoke is just an antifreeze that spilled. Make sure you put this is just a cap, by the way. I know earlier I talked about it. It's just a cap, and I guess it keeps this from separating. So make sure you put that back on. All right, everything lined up and good to go. So like I said, man, y'all got any questions, put them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer all the questions I get. This job overall took about an hour and a half, 2 hours. It's really simple. Follow the instructions I gave you and should be successful. All right, fam. We out.